The U.S. coronavirus outbreak has urged more than 316 million people in at least 42 states to stay home. But our next guest explains the importance of staying socially connected while practicing social distancing.
Yeah, joining us now to discuss, Alexandra Hudson. She's former aide to Betsy DeVos, Education Secretary. Good to see you. Alexandra, real quick, how important is it to still stay socially connected even though we're socially distanced?
It's incredibly important. I mean, I think social science researchers will be calculating the social costs of this time of social distancing for years to come. But it behooves us all to try and mitigate those costs now and try and continue to cultivate and maintain friendships and relationships and community during this time where we're not physically able to be together. And there are many ways to do that.
Well, start by telling us how. I've heard, obviously, you can make a lot of phone calls with people, maybe reach out, do some virtual happy hours or virtual get-togethers with people. Is that a good solution?
Yeah, we have friends that we're doing a video conference dinner tonight, and we have other friends that they've been doing virtual pubs from like 10:30 to 11:30 with friends every night. And it's still okay to go out for walks. I mean, they're recommending masks, but you can still go out for walks and maintain eye contact and smile. It's so funny. My husband and I have been going for walks the past few days with our newborn, and something that was previously thought of as incredibly rude. You see someone on the street and then you cross to the other side as soon as you see them. That's now the new norm, the new thing to do. And what's also interesting is that we've noticed that people feel the need to kind of divert their eyes and not even acknowledge that our existence or one another's existence. But there's no need to do that. And then, in fact, it's all the more important that we maintain that eye contact, acknowledge one another's existence now when we're not able to be physically present. It just reminds us that we're human and that we're connected and we're part of a community.
Alexandra, real quick, I just want to kind of break this down if we can. Let's throw up that full screen because you have a list of do's and don'ts for basically neighborhood behavior to follow again. And you kind of touched on those, but again, we'll show those here on the screen. And some of those on the green side of the do's, you're saying you can smile and wave at people walking by.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's okay. In fact, it's important.
That's a good one. We've also got, let's see, checking in with them on email chains or Facebook. You're saying, you could deliver a meal to family with kids, get groceries for an elderly couple, have social distancing walks, as you had mentioned before. We also want to highlight the don'ts. A good reminder, don't share food, tools, or items. Don't have backyard dinner parties or gatherings. Of course, now the time, to avoid having those large group gatherings. It's not now. We will get back to that eventually later. But you touched on the idea of masks earlier, and this is something that, many of us would have never thought we'd go out in public wearing. What's that been like for people who've now been advised to cover their face when they're heading outside?
Yeah, I think it's a norm that hasn't quite taken hold. I'm calling in from Indianapolis right now, and I think it's kind of trickling down slowly. But I mean, my husband's grandmother asked us to say, we're in our basement making masks right now. Do you guys want some? What color? And we're like, sure, we'll take them. But people are, making their own masks, and there's a lot of, people are taking the initiative and taking the guidance and recommendations seriously. But even, in addition to the distance that is causing kind of potential challenges to maintaining community and relationships during this time of social distancing, not being able to see people's full faces, not being able to see a smile, that can be a barrier to relationship as well, which again makes it all the more important that we are intentional about maintaining community during this time. Some models estimate this could go on for another 45 days. So it's important we start now and we're consistent with how we maintain and cultivate community.
I just want to be open to everyone in the country. I realize that if you're watching us from parts that haven't been hit hard, you may not be seeing a lot of masks in town, but I can assure you here in New York City, even walking to work, I looked inside the Starbucks and they had Starbucks decorated masks. And I was like, where are we living now? It's just an interesting time. I want to go back to your point for your do's and don'ts. This one really struck me. On the do's column, you say go ahead and get, here it is, get groceries for elderly people, an elderly couple. Kind of talk about how important that can be.
Absolutely. I mean, we know that the elderly and the immunocompromised are those that are among the most at risk and contracting the coronavirus, the COVID-19 disease. And so it makes sense to try and, if we have the resources, if we have the capacity, to do what we can to help those around us. And we're seeing that happening all across the country. I loved learning about this new, brand new nonprofit in Louisville that is matching healthy young adults with who want to help with elderly people in their community to try and it's a kind of a matching program that once they're matched, they're just kind of like have an ongoing relationship through however long this period of social distancing lasts. Just to try and, if an elderly person needs a prescription or groceries or an errand run, that they're there, they don't have to leave their house and be at risk. And it also, again, is a mutually beneficial way to keep community alive and well during this time of great need. So it's a beautiful tradition that we have in America, that we don't wait for the government to tell us to do things before we do them. We see problems and we fix them, and that's something we should really be proud of and celebrate as we're seeing that happen right before our eyes during this time of great need and crisis.
Yeah, that is great. Another thing people are doing, they're baking a lot more. They've got some more free time.
That's right.
They're looking up recipes. It said on the don't list, I want to highlight it, don't share your food.
It's so tempting.
It is, but it's a good reminder, as you said.
Quarantine cooking is hashtag trending right now, and I'm doing so much cooking, but it's true. It's just one way to kind of prevent the transmission. Yes.
Right. All right. So just email those recipes. We'll stick to that, and then after this is over, you can have a baking party.
That's right.
That's Alexandra Hudson, former aide to Betsy DeVos. Thank you for all your tips and tricks today.